An amazing lady passed away October 24th, 2005, of the name of Rosa Louise Macaulay Parks. She was born February 4th, 1913, and she has made her name in history by being an African-American civil rights activist. She is also known as the mother of the freedom movement. Here is a picture of the beautiful Rosa Parks. Back in the 1900s, most cities had ordinances to segregate passengers on the bus by race, whites in the front, blacks in the back. At first, there was no law requiring that the blacks would have to move so the whites could sit down. They would just have to stand. Over time, bus drivers adapted to the fact that blacks would move when whites got on so they could sit down. For years, blacks complained about this, but nothing happened. One day, on December 1st, 1955, Parks got on the bus after working all day. She sat in the first row, assigned to the blacks, right behind the white section. After a while, the white section was filling up, and there was some standing, so the bus driver came back and told 4 blacks, including Parks, that they had to move. The other 3 obeyed, and they moved. Rosa Parks did not. She said, "I don't think I should have to stand up." So the bus driver called the police. This was the same bus driver who a couple years ago left Rosa standing in the rain and did not let her ride. So as it was, Parks got arrested. She was charged with violation of Chapter 6, Section 11, Segregation Law of Montgomery City Code. She was bailed out the next day. Parks grew up on a farm, attended a church founded by free blacks in Philly in the early 19th century. It was in her early elementary years that she realized she lived in a world where whites and blacks were not treated equally. In 1943, she became a member of the Civil Rights Movement and became the secretary for the NAACP. In her role there, she's seen a lot of cases where equal justice should have been served. Later, in the 1940s, she became a housekeeper for a couple that were white. She became very good friends with them. In 1955, after she sat in on a case where a black teenager was murdered for flirting with a white woman, she attended a meeting that discussed concerned actions blacks could take to work for rights. After her arrest, she and her husband suffered hard times, job loss, illness, they had to move, but in all of this she still spoke quite frequently. In 1977, her husband passed away. Her brother died, and her mother died in 1979. Due to all of these personal ordeals, she was removed from the civil rights movement. In 1980, she rededicated herself to the civil rights movement, and she founded the Rosa L. Parks Scholarship Fund for high school seniors. And in 1987, she co-founded the Rosa and Raymond Parks Institution for Self-Development, which introduced youngs to the civil rights movement. In 1992, Parks published a book called Rosa Parks: My Story. It was an autobiography that recounts her life leading up to the day that she did not move on that bus and she got arrested. In 1999, she filmed a cameo appearance for Touched by an Angel, and this was her last big accomplishment as her health and well-being were not good. Parks was an amazing woman who stood for what she believed in. She didn't care about the consequences. She had many accomplishments in her life, including being on TV shows, writing books. She come up with a scholarship fund, and many other things.